All right, Twitch. It is Saturday. It's 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, and that means we're going to be in the studio doing some painting. And I've got the camera still set up from last time, so let me make a quick adjustment. There we go. So, when we last left off, we were working on some owl bears, if I remember correctly, doing some nails and horns and such. We also were working on our sorceress for a display piece and the large samurai for a diorama. And I thought we had a couple more. Now, we did get some put up onto Instagram. They're all finished. You can see some remainders from our reviews on Friday night where we reviewed a handle. The Ogre Matriarch is one that I am going to be working on quite a bit today. This is also for a competition. And then we have got a couple of adventurers from our Wednesday night game. Oh, darn it, this one is going to be a little stubborn here. There we go. Get that onto the handle, nice and tight. And then in addition, we've got, boy, just so many. We've got a couple of wolves. We have got goblins on wolves. We've got 2 dragons. We've got a griffin. So lots and lots and lots of things to do. Let's start getting busy. Now, if you do happen to join us in chat, make sure you give us a follow. We are always happy to gain new followers and have more interactions with people. While this is setting up, let's see, what do we need? We need a little bit of linen white and then some pure white for these nails. I want to finish out these 2 bugbears. As far as the bugbears themselves, we'll give them a spray and then work on basing. Now, one of them, this is what I call the chunky fellow. So it's already on a kind of finished base, so that'll just need painted and finished with some flocking and such. The other, this is called a Lowland Owl Bear. I really like this one. This one's really pretty cool. You can see I pinned the feet and started building a base out of cork, so that one's going to need a lot more work before we can get to a state where it's ready to paint. But regardless, we will work on it. Let's see, we've got our Ranger competition piece that also needs some work. Just started the Vam Braces and the sheath, so we've got a lot of leather work to do there before we move into some of the metals. And then more leather work, more leather work, more metal work, and hair. So a lot to do yet on this one here. And then our Fräulein, we got the shirting done, so we've still got to do all of the jacket and then the armor bits, the hat, the crop, a lot to go yet on that one there. But I want to have a lot different color combinations from the shirt to the jacket. So we may work on that one. We'll just see how we go on colors and time. Today is kind of a busy day, so I probably am only going to be able to paint for about an hour today. But regardless, should have a lot of fun and hopefully be able to clean off the table a little bit with like the owl bears getting done. The Flower Fairy Princess that I got done is now on my Instagram, so don't hesitate to check that out. and just nice thin paints we want. So add a little bit of water to that. Now all I'm doing here is working on the claws themselves. So I started out with a linen white and then gave them just a wash with wood stain brown, keeping this linen white here now. I'm going to go in and just layer a little bit thinly on the claws. And that pushes that brown back in, blends it in a little bit so it looks like it has not gotten any wear to the claw area. We'll do the same with the spikes on the back. For a long time, I didn't have any owl bear miniatures for my games. So I can tell you I did not utilize them over often in my campaigns, in my games. Now I've got 3 different owl bear miniatures. So it's kind of cool to be able to have those prepped up and ready to go when I need them. And the sculpts are all very different. One of them is already on my Instagram. If you get a chance, if you get a chance, go check that Instagram out. But that one actually has like antlers, so it's like a jackalope of a owl bear. But pretty cool. These two painted very similar. I painted them at the same time. My thought was I could build a story around it actually, where this one is the young owl bear. The one with the antlers is the, let's say, Papa Bear. And then the chunky one is the Mama Bear. So I could even use them in some fun aspects like that. At first I was kind of curious on why the one had antlers and why this one has the spikes coming out the back. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know, owl bears anyhow are not natural creatures. They're not just standard beasts. So they were created. So why wouldn't they have some variations that make them funky and different and unique? Use it to tell a story possibly of the mages who created these things just for fun, to see what they could do with their magic. And also give the owl bears a little bit of like differentiation in not only stats but personalities as well. Yeah, this one I am not using on a handle just because I was using some white poster tack on it and it separated out pretty hard, so did not hold up as good as blue tack. one also has some big old fangs in its mouth, as well as that sharp beak. And we'll add some pure white onto the end of that as well. Handle or no, I am a big believer in the handle, but switching them out is a little bit of a chore. It took me a bit to get that Ogre Matriarch on there, so I'm going to leave her on there since these are just small little detail bits. Well, Mama Owl Bear doesn't have as much. So no spines. Nothing like that. Just the claws on the feet. And hands. No big teeth in the mouth, anything like that. So pop these shades on. Try to use a little bit of variation in those brush strokes to keep them a little bit differentiated on the ends. Ooh, that way it dries almost like ridges and valleys in those claws. And we'll move on to our pure white and also thin this down a little bit. Thin that down a lot, actually. Just the edges are about half of what we've done before. Hello, hello. Is that Spuddojack? Spuddojack, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic Saturday. Hope the day is going by nice and easy for you. Relaxing, enjoyable. Hopefully you're not having to work on this Saturday. Many people do. I suppose it's good as long as you get some other time off. When I was younger, I used to love working the weekends and taking off Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Because then after school, I had the entire evening to do whatever I wanted. I should go through my cork and see if I got some more to glue down on this base. Maybe we'll do that here in a second. So a lot of my cork I keep in a cup, just so I can keep track of it, keep it in one location, and I can break it up into little tiny bits and it doesn't matter or get lost. Then I can use whatever little bits that I want. And I don't know if the camera picks up on this difference or not, but when you add this white onto the linen, it definitely gives it a lot more depth. So when you see it on the table, those nails really, really stand out. Remind those players that this is a beast that they don't want to screw around with or let it get too close to get attacks on them. And same thing with the spines here we're going to do. Dry up in there pretty fast. I am looking forward to dropping these miniatures on the table, these owl bears. I need to go through and just look at the different CR ratings and everything to see if it makes more sense to drop them in one at a time and kind of story them up together, or how powerful do my players need to be to face 3 owl bears at once, because it would be cool to have them encounter one and then the other 2 come in. And just like that, our owl bears are painted. Now we've just got to seal them the last little bit. But while I'm here, let's go ahead and pull some corking out. I'm going to build up a little bit more cork on that base. So these are just cork bottle tops that I got that I break up, and you see a lot of metal in there too. I'll get some super glue. Just put some dabs in there, some spots where there's just like hollows in this kind of rocky outcropping is what I was going for. I want it to be standing on a rocky outcropping. glued it myself. There we go, that fills that in. So I just want to look for areas where I've got either the smooth round end of the cork or a hollow that I can fill in with just some bits of cork. And then that way, once that's all done and dried, it's a good rocky outcropping. I can paint it up and it'll look fantastic. When you put some flocking and debris on there, it'll be a very dynamic base. And the biggest thing is really making sure that it does not look like round cork. So using just busted up pieces is the best way to go. Try to make sure I take off any of the smooth edges and then use the smooth edges that do remain kind of against other smooth edges or in hollows. Look for the way that they fit together really well. And make some cool dynamic scenery with it. And then after this all dries, you go in with just dirt and PVA glue watered down. And fill in the minute cracks that will remain. And I just use a pokey tool to try to maneuver everything in place. As you can see, almost like playing let's build a little puzzle. And again, the biggest thing you want to do is make sure that you don't have any smooth edges showing. So if you have a smooth edge, just pop another chunk against it. You'll be good to go. Alright, last little bit. Let's see what we got for some small little bits here. It's not going to take much to fill some of these. And there we go. Fill in a lot of those gaps. Now we'll let that dry for a day. That will mean we can spray it this evening and then tomorrow come back and pop in that little bit of dirt, seal it up again, and then we can paint our base and be good to go. Alright, clean up my mess a little bit. And let's get going a little bit on some of the leather on the Ranger. So I've already started with putting a base coat of ruddy leather down. And to lighten that up, and get it to just leather. Give it a good worn look. So the areas we're going to be focusing on, I want this and those Vam Braces to end the scabbard to be this ruddy leather. So I've already put down a ruddy leather base. Now I'm going to be using ruddy leather and tanned leather. To start building up some highlights. Think of this as worn aspects. Nice and thin. And I want to do a little bit of like speckling pattern here. We'll probably do a couple of layers of this because I want good opacity on it, but I also want to build up the highlights really well. So really thin highlights to start us out with. And then just build up. Got to think of where the wear pattern will be. So I want to move further and further away from those spikes and edge, which we will do in a non-metallic metal. Of course, this one here is a piece for competition. So I try to get as much subtle transitions as possible. Now this lower one doesn't have much area showing, so I'm not going to be able to do as much with it. Let's move on to the Vam Braces. Just a little bit of like speckling. Because these are pretty minute in like size that you're able to paint, because they've got a lot of details on them, it's not going to be as much as we're able to get in like on the pants, where we've got lots of beautiful transitions, lots of tonal highlight changes. So it's not going to be as expressive, I guess is the best word for it, as the pants. But we've got to put in some of that detailing so that we keep consistency. At first, when I saw these Vam Braces, they've got this oak leaf on it. And that is our logo, is an oak leaf with an acorn for Green Oaks Arts and Games. So at first, I was very tempted to paint these Vam Braces similar to the way we do our logo, with a deep blue and a Kelly green, because I thought it would be kind of cool to have our logo kind of on this miniature, but it just didn't fit with the miniature. Pardon me. So I scrapped that plan. I'm going to do one more pass on here. Those highlight points up. This is where we'll be building on additional highlights. So we got to make sure we have a good opaque base. With this first highlight. And onto that scabbard. You can see the leather strap, I guess, that's holding the scabbard in place. We've already done a base coat on this tanned leather. So this, not this color, but a tanned leather. And that is because it is going to be a lighter color than the scabbard itself. And then the wraps around the scabbard are going to be even lighter yet. So much like we did on the pants on this one, with all the different belts and the quiver and everything, we're going to have variations of color of leather. Just to drive in more character. And give it that feel of realistic leather look. worn leather out in the field for many moons. I want to show that this ranger has been out in the wilds for some time and is a very, very tough customer. Alright, getting close now. We'll move on to the tanned leather next. We're just emulating the same. Once we get these leather aspects, and then we can go back through and do the metal elements. That'll help clean up any of the little bits that we've got that go up and over them. Bring it all together. This is the color that will actually do the hilt of the sword as well. A little bit challenging seeing some of the areas. Especially under those forearms, it's pretty deep and shadowed. But you got to make sure to get them for your competition pieces, because the judges are allowed to pick them up handle them and to look them over in detail. So gotta make sure you get those areas. Little areas can be pretty challenging for your highlighting. Good thing to do, especially with leather. Look up pictures of belts, leather belts. Actually, for me, the best way that I learned to paint leather was by looking at leather jackets, leather belts, leather boot. I looked up so much stuff on worn leather and then just started practicing how I could emulate those subtle transitions of wear into paint. I got a mess up. I gotta clean it up real quick. Got some of that on the white Band-Aid. Alright, now just going through and making sure I've got good opacity where I need it so I can build up or continue to build up my highlights. And the next one is that, while I'm there, let's go ahead and start with our hilt of the sword. And just get that base coat laid down. Now the next one is a blend, that tanned leather and leather. Super selective where you start putting those highlights. Just for your wear. The deeper some of the areas, like these Vam Braces, where they're super deep with these big leaves on them, they're not going to get as worn, so you shouldn't have as much wear on them. Do the same thing on the handle of the sword. This for our transitions, we'll drive those shadows down into those crevices. Give us a good wear pattern. last tone I'm going to use is just leather brown. This is going to be a bigger stark contrast, and I could blend another blend in there to have a little more like transitive layer, but I'm not going to because I want that little bit of stark. These details are so small that I need to get up to these highlights before I run out of space. I don't have a ton of room anymore for smaller and smaller highlights. Now when we put those spikes in there and then the framework, which are going to be done in non-metallic metal, that's going to give us all the depth we need. Then on any area that I feel really needs a little more wear on the leather aspect, we could go through and do a little bit of our leather brown combined with leather white. And that would really brighten it up, similar to what we did in some aspects of the pants and pouch. And think about your wear areas. Edges and flats are going to have the most wear, so make sure you give them their just due. That's a step we actually will take pretty seriously when we work on the sword handle. Starting to look almost like a K-bar handle, which is what I'm going for. Now I did miss the strap that we had started, so I'm going to go through and touch this up, going back basically a step. color we were on. This is the leather brown and tanned leather blend. I'm going to go through and pop some of this on here. Now we'll start getting us a wear pattern. I can come in with the leather brown and with finer detail. Do the same thing. I'm going to focus first on the edges and little bits into the center of the belt, or towards the center. No, it's not a belt, but strap, belt, whatever. And that little bit of rough stippling is going to give us a good texture of cracking leather. There we go. Now for the last bit, I'm going to use light tanned leather mixed with my tanned leather. And again, more just stippling the edges. Little bits here and there I want up onto the strap. On the handle, just in those upper parts. And there we go. Leather for days. Where are we at? Oh, we're at 102. Well, we didn't get a whole lot done today, but we got a lot of leather done. Overall, I think it looks pretty decent. I am actually going to go ahead and do one last little bit. I would think that this in here catches quite a bit. So I'm just going to do a very light little bit right there. Bring that up a little bit, just a touch higher on that edge. There we go, more and more leather done. Now all we've got on this one here is the decorative elements of metal on the Vam Braces and on the shoulder, on the scabbard, the leather wraps on the scabbard, which, since we're here, let's go ahead and do those. So this one here, I'm going to start with just a leather brown. Now these we're doing in this color because I want it to be a more supple wrap style. Give that a moment to dry. I'll actually do, because I haven't earlier, just now realizing, this handle here. For this dagger. Further behind than I thought. that's okay because then it gives this time to dry. So that when we go back to it, we can do a second coat. Make sure we've got really good coverage. This one is going to be a little bit more challenging, so what we're going to do is cut it up into the center of the handle and then give it a wash. Because it's got super fine lining I put into it. And while that's doing that, let's get a little bit of khaki. And light tanned leather. Got a funky thing that I don't feel I cleaned up well enough. We have to go back and adjust that a little bit. Khaki. to the handle. And same colors we've been using. The only difference is I'm going to get some black and brown, just one little dot of that. No mess of water, and a lot of that down in water. With that dry, and we're just going to do a quick wash on this. Up a little bit of that extra. Just so it doesn't cloud those pants. Then I'm going to line it. And good to go. Look at that, tons of leather done. I'm going to bring a little bit more detail into this belt aspect here. Because that belt I can see getting used a lot. We'll have the most wear on the tip. There we go. Just like that. Now when we get that buckle, metal bits around the Vam Braces, the scabbard, the shoulder piece. We've got to do the hair and then the ribbon in the hair. Metal components on there and the final gem on that dagger. And then this one will be done. A little bit of little droplets of white on there. All right, there we go. There we go. Whew. Well, a day in the studio. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope it was relaxing. And now we've got a lot, well, not a lot. We've got a couple to spray and seal and base, a couple more to work on. And until next week, have a great week. Bye-bye.